Take a look at what happened.
ಶ್ರೀಲಂಕಾ ಪ್ರಜಾತಾಂತ್ರಿಕ ಸಮಾಜವಾದಿ ಜನರಾಜ್ಯ ಜನಾಧಿಪತ್ಯ
Is the only reason we can now send American astronauts into space. We had an election that was stolen from us. It was a landslide election, and everyone knows it.
There hasn't been a game changer like this one in years.
5 days from now, we will officially accept the Republican nomination for President of the United States.
Only the second time anyone has returned to the White House after losing a presidential re-election bid.
News just coming in is that Trump has now won the battleground.
A convicted felon at the beginning of 2021 is set to be President of the United States of America again.
It's a political victory that our country has never seen before, nothing like this.
Break down that journey into 4 big symbolic milestones, sub-game changers themselves.
Take a look at what happened.
Moment 1, this mugshot, an angry, defiant Trump ready to fight back. In August this year, he'd been booked on charges of attempting to overturn the 2020 election result, besides a series of other criminal indictments.
$35,000 check that President Trump personally signed from his personal bank account.
Trump's campaign turned the picture around. Polls went on to show that Trump's argument about a political witch hunt in the courtrooms was drawing him more support than ever.
It looks like the judges are going to allow me to escape this scam. It's a scam trial.
Game changer moment 2.
I mean, billionaires in America. And what's happening?
That first presidential debate between President Joe Biden and Donald Trump on the 27th of June brought forth a big turning point. As Biden stumbled and floundered in his reply to a question on the unresolved border issue, Trump knew he was right on top.
Did anybody last night watch a thing called a debate?
Biden deciding to bow out of the contest was only a matter of time from there.
This is a big crowd. This is a big, big, beautiful crowd.
Moment 3.
Take a look at what happened.
The 13th of July at an open-air rally near Butler, Pennsylvania. And this. That bloodied ear was just one end of it. That pumped fist and the mouthed words beseeching his followers to quote-unquote fight as blood streaked his face reflected a rare determination. This picture of that fist bump became a symbol of Trump's rejuvenation. And then this, Donald Trump's appearance at the Republican convention in Milwaukee days after the assassination bid. That bandage strapped over one ear made an impact like little else. The fight was on. And the results of the 2024 US presidential elections revealed that he won it. His name is in the history books again, and in an entirely new light. Tied closely to the Trump juggernaut, the world's richest man, Elon Musk. Musk's America PAC that contributed nearly $200 million to Trump's campaign made a game-changing impact. The unprecedented financial backing sets a new standard for billionaire influence in American elections. By combining his tech empire with growing political clout, Musk blurred the lines between private enterprise and public policy. He's turned up on Trump's phone calls and meetings with global leaders and even technology rivals. In America, PAC's targeted ad campaigns and door-knocking initiatives, Musk emerged as one of Trump's most prominent surrogates. His influence extended way beyond financial contributions. In Trump's tenure to come, Musk is expected to remain the most influential force in US politics. He's already shown signs of proximity to Trump. Big business gains promise to be just one end of the benefits ahead for him. Betting on the right man is set to pay off big. Syria is being purified. This is a victory for the entire nation, Mohammad al-Julani declared against the distinct black and white stone backdrop of the iconic Umayyad Mosque in Damascus. The 1,300-year-old mosque marked his arrival, not in a TV studio or a recently vacated presidential palace, but in a place steeped in historical and spiritual meaning. As the offensive in Syria had unfolded, global media had focused on Jolani's jihadist past. Some saw him as a liability. Fact is, Hayat Tahrir al-Sham's success in uniting rebels and nearly capturing the entire country has strengthened Jolani's position, quieting critics. To Syrians, including minorities, he promised safety. To neighbors, he pledged peaceful relations. Jolani even assured Russia that its Syrian bases would remain unharmed if attacks ceased. He stressed on pragmatism over rabid belief. The world now waits to see whether and how Jolani's promises of pluralism and tolerance will play out. Alongside the push for Syria's revival, can he signal the decline of global jihadi movements like Islamic State and Al-Qaeda? The Syrian war, dormant for years, erupted again at the end of November in Idlib. In a week's time, it was all over. Aleppo in the northwest fell on the 2nd of December, the first major breakthrough in years. 4 cities fell to the rebels in 24 hours before they arrived in Damascus. With both Iran and Russia busy in other conflicts, the Syrian army seemed to just melt away. Assad fled the country. He's got asylum in Russia with a nod from Putin himself on the move. The end of the Assads in Syria marks a turning point for a country battered by over 2 decades of war, a potential game changer for West Asia, signaling an overwhelming restructuring of power in a strategically vital West Asian nation. Strategically, a new dawn in Syria may limit Iran's ability to spread weapons to its allies and could cost Russia its Mediterranean naval base. But will it also mean the homecoming of millions of refugees scattered across Turkey, Lebanon and Jordan? Can Syria get up on its feet again under a unity government? The fact that this is in sight is itself a game changer. An intricately diplomatic offensive against the Maldives. The impact on BRICS and other world fora. In 2024, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi expanded the global space of eminence he has made for himself. Among the many high points and highlights of Modi in 2024 was a message of India's non-alignment and equidistance from all in an increasingly polarized world.
Success of humanity lies in our collective strength, not in the battlefield.
These 2 images stand out. PM Modi's hug and firm handshake with Russian President Vladimir Putin became one of the lasting images of his trip to Moscow. 6 weeks later, he became the first Indian Prime Minister to visit Ukraine. Here too, Modi shared a warm hug with President Volodymyr Zelensky. He later kept a hand on Zelensky's shoulder as the duo visited the memorial for children killed in the war. The message sent out was that India lent equally in warmth to both sides, that its priority was brotherhood and peace, and that it would support moves to achieve this end.
शांति और स्थिरता की जल्द से जल्द बहाली का हम पूरी तरह समर्थन करते हैं.
Later, Modi told Putin on the eve of the BRICS summit that he wanted peace in Ukraine. He underscored that New Delhi was ready to help achieve a truce to end Europe's greatest conflict since World War II. Ukraine has come to increasingly view Modi and India as its ideal intermediary in dealings with the Kremlin. PM Modi showed the world that India may be the only global power that can play the role, or at least the only one able to credibly portray itself as a neutral party to both Moscow and Kyiv. Sri Lanka President Anura Kumara Dissanayake, popularly called AKD, marks a key shift in the country's political arena. In a country that has elected powerful dynasts almost throughout its post-independence history, AKD as president is a game-changing departure from politics as usual. And to think AKD garnered only 3% of valid votes in the last presidential election in 2019. Fact is, his victory is the culmination of the sea change in Sri Lanka's political discourse since 2022, the year of the mass uprising against the incumbent government. Dissanayake marks closure in the waves of anger against Gotabaya Rajapaksa and his clan, a group of politicians infamous for their racism, thuggery and nepotism. AKD was the anti-establishment candidate, giving voice to the anger and frustration of the common man. The voter saw him as clean and holding the promise of a radical systemic change. It's yet to be seen if AKD will live up to big promises of systemic change, but the ball has been set rolling. And in the bigger picture, all eyes are on whether AKD's presidency can be a game changer for South Asia's geopolitical balance amid China's influence. Asif Mahmood, Nahid Islam, Abu Bakr Majumdar. On their own, the names don't ring too much of a bell. They are student leaders who spearheaded the anti-discrimination student movement, an uprising against job quotas in Bangladesh that turned into a call for then Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina to resign. The three faces behind Hasina being forced to leave the country. Police crackdowns on them led to their movement taking an unprecedented impetus. The spirit of the movement, said Nahid Islam, was to create a new Bangladesh where no fascist or autocrat can return. The trio rejected calls from the two main political parties for quick election, considering launching their own outfit to cement reforms. They cited their mission as avoiding a repeat of the last 15 years. The sheer scale of anti-government violence in Bangladesh that led to Hasina's downfall has been unprecedented in its 53-year history. Nominated by the student leaders as chief advisor to an interim government for Bangladesh was this man, Nobel laureate Professor Muhammad Yunus. To think this founder of Grameen Bank was charged with massive corruption by the Sheikh Hasina government at the dawn of the year. This staunch critic of the Hasina government had hailed the student-led protests as a second victory day. Big challenges lay ahead, establishing law and order, reviving the economy, paving the way for free and fair elections. To its credit, the Yunus administration has brought a semblance of stability. The economy is moving. There are steps to rebuild reserves, reform banking, and retrieve bad loans. Commissions to reform national institutions are finally in place. Mob violence is down to a minimum. But the little progress made has been painstakingly slow, and there are signs of things going downhill. A huge failing has been the absence of a roadmap for a return to democracy. Yunus puts it off in the name of the need for reforms.
2025 সালের শেষ দিক থেকে 2026 সালের
He's promised elections at the end of 2025 or early 2026, but the promise looks weak. The human rights situation remains a big blot too. The crackdown on a Hindu priest, ISKCON's Chinmoy Krishna Das, and a string of attacks on minorities drew strong ire from India, with the relationship hitting its lowest point ever. It's gone to the extent of global powers lashing out at what's been termed genocide and ethnic cleansing. Israel's longest-serving Prime Minister reshaped the balance of power in West Asia in 2024. Israel's enemies in the region, the Hezbollah and Hamas, have been weakened like never before. He's led Israel to eliminating Hamas chief Yahya Sinwar and Hezbollah head Hassan Nasrallah. All the talk of Hezbollah's inherent unassailability seemed to have been nixed, at least for now. Any doubt on Israel's deterrence capabilities after October 7, 2023 stand nullified after all of Iran's retaliatory missile strikes were neutralized. At the beginning of 2024, 85% of Israelis were calling for Netanyahu's removal, calling him an existential threat to the country over handling of the Gaza war. But Netanyahu has stood firm. He even stood up to the US, ignoring demands to treat Gazans humanely. He's accused of hampering flow of food and humanitarian aid. But despite everything, he's ending 2024 with a 47% approval rating. His popularity has actually rebounded. On the 27th of November, Israel, Lebanon, and several mediating countries signed a ceasefire agreement between Israel and the Hezbollah. More than 3,700 were killed in Lebanon in nearly 14 months of fighting as Israel bombarded South Beirut, where it believed Hezbollah cadres were operating. There are reports of 3 people killed post the ceasefire, but media has reported that the ceasefire has held overall. The death of Iranian President Ibrahim Raisi in a helicopter crash marked the beginning of shifts in Iran's paradigms. The man who replaced Raisi at the helm post-elections, Masoud Pezeshkian, was a liberal. Pezeshkian promised to improve ties with the world and ease restrictions on social freedoms at home. But one factor remained constant: a standing up to the West. On the 1st of October, Iran unleashed a barrage of nearly 200 missiles against Israel. A statement described the barrage as having been in line with the legitimate right of the nation to defend itself. The new liberal government in Iran ensured that despite shifting dynamics socially, its stand vis-à-vis the West remained the same. Under Pezeshkian, Iran has withdrawn strict morality laws that were to have come into effect. For Iranians, Pezeshkian holds out promise of a blend of modernity while ensuring that its strategic self-respect remains intact. A game changer creating as well as emerging out of the shift in dynamics in Iran. June 19, 2024. All smiles for Russian President Vladimir Putin and North Korean leader Kim Jong-un during Putin's whirlwind state visit to Pyongyang. It was the first of its kind in 24 years.
Новый фундаментальный документ, который лежит в основу наших отношений.
Among the 23 articles of the treaty was a clause bringing back language from a 1961 USSR DPRK pact. The bigger aim was clear, a strong signal of defiance to the West and South Korea. The immediate implication, military technical cooperation in the framework of the Russia-Ukraine conflict and North Korea's strategic missile buildup. That extended to food and fuel supplies to Pyongyang and North Korea's support to Russia with its labor and combat force. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky and others have alleged North Korean boots on the ground in the conflict with Russia in Kursk. In return, Russia may provide advanced technologies, oil, food products, and hard currency. Rising closeness worries the Western world.
파렴치한 종북 반국가 세력들을
South Korea's president shocked the country and the world in December when, out of the blue, he declared martial law in the Asian democracy for the first time in nearly 50 years. He blamed it on anti-state forces and the threat from North Korea. But it soon became clear that it had not been spurred by external threats, but by his own desperate political troubles. His decree temporarily put the military in charge, with helmeted troops and police deployed to the National Assembly Parliament building. Local media also showed scenes of masked gun-toting troops storming into the building. Days later, Yoon was impeached, not a first for the country, but certainly one that matters hugely. South Korea now enters a period of uncertainty as the Constitutional Court deliberates Yoon's fate. While the impeachment process follows legal and constitutional norms, it also reflects the broader struggle of a nation grappling with its democratic ideals. For the United States, this entire affair is not only embarrassing, but potentially disruptive to its geopolitical agenda in East Asia. A victim of mass rape in France, Gisèle Pellicot has emerged as a champion of feminism, a symbol of a woman's determination to put up a fight for justice. Her husband orchestrating her sexual abuse by strangers could have broken her, but she stood up to her abusers in court and demanded they be shamed. Gisèle Pellicot was drugged for almost a decade, so her husband and dozens of strangers he recruited online could rape her while unconscious. When the trial of her now ex-husband and 50 other defendants opened in the French city of Avignon in September, journalists saw a woman with short red hair hiding behind sunglasses. 3.5 months of sometimes grueling hearings, including graphic video evidence, is what Gisèle Pellicot had to suffer through. But she braved it all. Her case in France may lead to big changes in France's rape laws to include consent for the first time, challenging the limits of existing legislation and prompting some leading politicians to call for change. The sporting world saw its fair share of game changers this year, but none more so than Domaraju Gukesh. This 18-year-old from Chennai etched his name in history by becoming the youngest chess world champion ever. Gukesh got the better of defending champion Ding Liren in Singapore to become just the second world chess champion from India after Vishwanathan Anand. That moment when his victory was confirmed will live long in the memory of every Indian. Visuals of his homecoming in Chennai also emphasize the magnitude of his victory. Gukesh is the leader of the golden generation of Indian chess. 2024 will go down in history as the year where the world of chess saw a tectonic shift. The Indian team swept the men's and women's gold medals at the FIDE Chess Olympiad in Budapest.